A very good morning to one and all present over here. I, Rahul Anand, member of IT Club, welcomes you all to the most awaited event of the year, which is based on the theme IT Innovations in Corporates Today. As it has always been the tradition of the Institute, we always begin with a prayer. So, on that note, I would like to play a video where Pooja Devadiga from our Institute MMS second year has beautifully played saxophone. Thank you, Pooja, for your phenomenal performance. That was really a great start to this event. Before going any further, I would like to introduce our respected and beloved director, ma'am, Dr. Sunita Srivastava. She is not only a director, but also a professor, as well as mentor. She encourages her students to to their limits. She is there with each and every student at every step to mentor. She has an ocean of experience in the corporates, which she has always tried to teach. So now let's take a look at her journey. A widely traveled management professional with more than 35 years of experience in various capabilities as director, dean, professor, consultant, and corporate trainer. She has been the recipient of several scholarships both in India and abroad on account of her academic excellence. She was awarded the Best Professor in Marketing by ABP News on July 2017. And she was also awarded Top 50 Women in Education Leader by World Education Congress in 2018 and awarded as Fabulous Global Education Leader in 2019. She has spent childhood in Boston, USA of College Education in Punjab, followed through by an MBA from University of Nairobi and PhD from Rajasthan. She has been associated with institutions like SP Jain, Mumbai Chetna, Institute Mumbai, JIMS, New Delhi, and many others. She has been a guest faculty at the Delhi School of Economics, NIFT, PhD Chamber of Commerce, National Productivity Council, and Central Warehousing Corporation at New Delhi, and is professionally associated with IGNOU, AIMA, and various institutes at the national level. Now, I would like to call upon our director, ma'am, to welcome us all. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you very much. Thanks so much, Rahul, for such a great beginning. Good morning and a very warm welcome to the IT Conclave organized by the IT Club of Aditya Institute of Management Studies and Research. Today is an extremely auspicious day. Happy Navratri to all those who are present here. Namaskar. I extend my sincere felicitations to all who are present here on this occasion. Honorable Chairman and Founder Trustee Sir, respected Trustee Shri Ashish Mishra ji, Dr. Manoj Bhatia, Director, Aditya School of Business Management, all our esteemed speakers, Mr. Shrikant Sarda, Managing Director, Accenture Technologies, Ms. Sangeetha Prasad, Creator-in-Chief, Growing Up with India, Mr. Apurva Mankad, CEO, Web Express, Mr. Vipul Mishra, Senior Service Delivery Manager, ITC Infotech, and Ms. Arfa Sheikh, Talent Development and Analytics Manager, Bizongo. A special welcome to all our friends from the corporate who are here for this program and IT Conclave. All CXOs, all managers, all faculty colleagues, and my wonderful enthusiastic students. AIMSL has become known as a business school that challenges conventional learning processes in management education in India today. Aditya Institute of Management Studies and Research has been rated as the number 9 position holder amongst the B schools in Mumbai according to the Times B School Survey 2020 in the month of June. AIMSR has received an award and certificate of excellence at the Navbharat Education Award ceremony in June 2019. The felicitation was given for being a B school with a difference, which has the ability to be able to fuse Indian and global teaching practices. Recognizing the need for depth and hence readiness in almost all the areas of management education, we as an institution have started organizing different types of webinars. We have set up a series of webinars in different streams. We started this series with the CHRO Conclave webinar on emerging leadership capabilities post-COVID-19. It involved a panel discussion by the CHROs on specific issues as new leadership skills, adaptability with changes, opportunities in future, and emerging best practices. The Institute has been successful in setting up virtual summer internship projects for the students. In this endeavor, the Institute has had an impressive response from a wide area of companies such as Infoben, Vadva Group, Future Generally, HR Revolux, and many more. Academically too, the Institute was steadfast in adapting to the new reality by moving to online sessions, thereby ensuring that the learning for the students never came to a halt. Our institute has senior faculty members, senior members from the industry who pool their talent together and try and offer mentorship to the students 24/7. So practical classroom sessions, evaluations, presentations, and a lot of mentoring that has happened throughout this COVID-19 period has actually been the basic reason behind us becoming successful academically as well as, I would say, emotionally. In these times of globalization, we all understand that partnerships are significant in teaching, research, and learning. So AIMSR is an institutional member of MDSA, which is an association of management development institutions in South Asia. We are also members of IMA, IMC Chamber of Commerce and Industry, ICIB, AIMS, CII, and IIC, and all these memberships have actually been utilized by us in creating management development programs for the industry, as well as coming up with a wonderful industry-academia interface. AIMSR remains extremely active with student engagement and development activities through various clubs. Each club organizes conclaves and summits related to contemporary issues. And this happens throughout the year. We have been able to tackle issues such as social listening in digital marketing, design thinking for business, and many more such innovative topics have been taken up through these conclaves. Last year, the IT Club organized the IT Conclave on the theme Data Driver for Business. We had invited industry speakers from HPCL, from Mahindra Finance, Accent Technovation, Accenture, and many more organizations. Today, the IT Conclave has been organized by the IT Club with the theme IT Innovations in Corporates Today. It has been rightly said by Bill Gates that information technology and business are becoming inextricably interwoven. No one can talk meaningfully about one without referring to the other. The current pandemic situation has made all of us realize the multiple benefits of information technology like never before. Our offices and lives are getting totally invaded by Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, AR, VR, and what have you. Of all the IT innovations which are going to be referred to by our expert speakers from the industry today, I would like to mention about one important thing, And the point is that almost all economic successes as well as socio-cultural successes of any country can actually be attributed to the abilities of the information technology teams within those countries to be able to adapt to changes fast. I was particularly impressed to read about the innovation in the form of a robot in Tokyo. There's this hotel in Tokyo which admits only those patients which are seen with mild COVID symptoms. So the humanoid robot, the name is Pepper. The job of Pepper is to greet and welcome these patients, make them feel comfortable, and in the process, you are able to safeguard the interests of the employees by providing them with safety and also no touch communication with the patients. Such are the innovations which are happening world over. Another such innovation is the one that has been seen in Singapore. What Singapore has is a robotic dog which tries to patrol the parks and keeps announcing that let us all keep Singapore safe and healthy. So let us try and maintain social distancing by staying apart from each other by at least 1 meter. So such announcements are able to excite the attention of all the passers-by and all those who are using the park. So all in all, we find that innovations in information technology all over the globe, including India, which is going to be specifically mentioned by our industry speakers today, these innovations make us believe and actually make us conclude also that information technology has been and is always going to drive the future. I would like us to now open our minds and try and be willing to learn out of the experiences, out of the innovations which are going to be shared by our expert speakers today. But please remember that information technology is a reality today, and the reality of IT is exponential. If we take 30 steps linearly, we get to 30. But if we take 30 steps exponentially, we get to a billion. I think that is the power of information technology. And therefore, with these few words, I wish you all happy listening and an extremely insightful day. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Ma'am, for your welcome address and for starting the event on such a positive note. Taking the event further, I would like to introduce Director of ASBM, Dr. Manoj Bhatia. Dr. Manoj Bhatia, with an overall experience of 25 years as leader, motivator, and team builder in management education in India and abroad. He earned his graduation in mechanical engineering from NIT Bhopal, Masters in Business Administration, and PhD in Business Management from Barkatullah University. He has worked with many prestigious institutions, including MICA Ahmedabad, ITM Kharghar Navi Mumbai, ICFAI Business School Ahmedabad, Sangvi Institute of Management Indore, JK Lakshmipat University Jaipur at different positions. He has associated with various national level associations including CII, AIMS, IMA, and has worked very closely with them for their programs. Dr. Bhatia has been a practicing researcher in the field of marketing management and has interest in retail management, consumer behavior, and service marketing. He has published 48 research papers and has edited 2 books. In addition, he has been a research supervisor with 2 of the private universities and on the research panel of a few other private universities in the country. Dr. Bhatia has received several accolades and awards, including Best Principal Award, Best Faculty Award in Regional Symposium on Higher Education. I would like to invite Dr. Manoj Bhatia to address us and share his insights. Over to you, sir.
Thank you and good morning, everyone. Happy Navratri to everyone present over here. I would like to extend a warm welcome to all the panel speakers and Director Madam Dr. Sunita Srivastava, our trustees, Founder Chairman and all the students who are present for this conclave. IT innovations. We are all reaching to each other through this innovation, which is one of its unique kind, and I can always say 20 years back, nobody would have imagined and thought that this could be one of the ways we will be talking to each other, seeing each other, listening to each other. I will like to bring to all the students how this innovation happens. One, because of the human curiosity. Our minds are curious enough. I will like to say over here, no human mind on this earth would be without any curiosity at any point of time. And this curiosity in human minds is giving birth to what we call it as innovation. And we always say in management parlance that innovation is the grassroots approach for the human beings. That is from bottom to top. We look into what is happening around us. There is a need, there is a requirement, and that leads to what we call it as innovation. And if you see the core values of Aditya group of institutions, innovation is the first word which we practice, encourage, and make it happen with our students through the eminent and the learned faculty, staff, and of course, the people like today we have as the panel people or the panel eminent speakers from industry. So all this mix and blend, when it comes together at one platform, which is Aditya Group of Institutions, there are lot of innovative ideas, lot of innovative thoughts which come across during this mindful interaction and make it happen for the learners. When we are talking of the innovation, Indian innovation word, which is very popular and which has gone into the dictionary as well in the recent times, Jugaad, is also, I will like to draw everyone's attention for. On our streets, on our villages, rural pockets, we do a short-term innovative technique, manage the requirement which is there for an hour or which is the need of the hour, and complete the activity or the task in the days to come or weeks to come. And in Indian parlance, we call it Jugaad. Innovation always happens when you look beyond the boundaries and when you keep on seeking the information which is available around you. If you stop thinking, if you stop looking at around you, you will be outdated or you will be considered as dead in today's world. So as a student, all of you should keep on looking at the information which is around you. Think beyond what is available and keep on doing a mindful thinking and brainstorming, because the ideas which come to you, if you put them right, you never know, one of them can be a innovative thought, innovative idea, which could be taking its shape. As students, most of the time, you try to discard because your group, peer group, they will say, oh, what funny thing you are talking of. Because from the funny things, even the innovation comes. With this, I will once again like to welcome all our guest speakers from various different domains for their useful insights and thoughts to entire audience. Happy learning and happy Navratri ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bhatia sir, for addressing us. So with the blessings from our both the directors, let us start with today's event. I, Ms. Nehal Dilip Panchal, member of IT Club, would like to introduce our first speaker from the panelists. It's my immense pleasure to introduce Ms. Sangeetha Prasad. So, her education includes MBA, University of Chicago Graduate School of Business, MA and BA of Economics in Delhi University. She is experienced as Senior Vice President, Business Development in Sales and Marketing at Centers Pharma Private Limited. Head in Commercial Development, Sun Pharmaceuticals Industry. Head of Global Branding, Global Pharmaceuticals Business, Ranbaxy Laboratories. Questcol Pharmaceuticals as Product Director, Associate Marketing Director. Abbott Laboratories Pharmaceuticals Products Division as Director in Public Health Policy and Strategy. Senior Product Manager MMA Ambassador Program, Senior Product Manager Hypertension, Product Manager MAVIC, Product Manager Neuroscience, and Management Development Program. She has also been as manager in Exchange Control Department, Assistant Currency Officer, Assistant Accounts Officer at Reserve Bank of India. We are absolutely honored to have you with us today, ma'am. Over to you, ma'am.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, perfect. So you're going to have to work with me a little. I'm going to open some slides to talk to you. And then we'll start. Is that okay? So can everybody see my slides?
Yeah, perfect.
Perfect. All right, so I want to say good morning to everybody and echoing everybody also happy Navratri. It's great to start. It's great to start in the morning of Navratri. So happy Navratri to everyone. I'm going to keep a very simple discussion today because I focus on marketing. As Sangeetha said, we're going to talk about different functions. I'm going to focus on marketing. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what is marketing, just so that we have a framework of reference, and then talk about all the different innovations in terms of two key themes, the evolution of e-commerce and the evolution of digital marketing, and discuss a lot of different things and technologies that have come under these two umbrellas. So just a quick recap, you're all studying this, so I'm not going to go into a lot of details, but just to ground us. What is marketing? It's the process of planning and executing the conception, pricing, promotion, and distribution of an idea, a good, or a service to satisfy the needs of consumers or organizations. So really the important thing to remember is marketing comes from the marketplace. And so everything we do is about the consumer and the marketplace in marketing. And so I think everybody in business school knows the 4 pillars of marketing. Anything we talk about in technology, we'll look at it from an angle of product, price, promotion, and place. I'm not going to go into the details, but whenever we think about how is the technology going to impact the product we're going to sell, how can it impact the price, how can it impact the promotion, and how can it impact the place at which we're going to sell it. And all of this ultimately, comes together in this concept of positioning, which, just as a reminder, again, is the place a brand occupies in the mind of its target audience. And again, it's a summary of the 4 P's: the place, the brand, the target audience. All those pieces are important as we think about how does technology impact marketing. So as we think about this technology impacting marketing, we're going to look at how does it impact what is the product we're going to sell. So the ideation behind conceiving a product, what do I want to sell? What are its features going to be? What are its benefits going to be? How do we then research and develop our product? And that includes both consumer research as well as product research. And finally, what we hear a lot when we talk about marketing, which is the execution of the plan, which is what is our advertising plan, and ultimately, how do we make the sale? So everybody with me so far? I'm hoping. So when we think about marketing and technology, obviously, because we're dealing with the marketplace, whatever we do in the marketplace is very, very influenced by the state of technology. So marketing is constantly evolving as technology is evolving. So really, when I think about marketing as a discipline that's blending strategy on how to grow an organization, how to bring revenue to an organization with what is the best that we can do in terms of technology. In the last few years, as Sangeetha said, IT innovations have created a lot of change in the world we're living in. More specifically for marketing, they have created unprecedented digital connectivity. And marketing has really leveraged these opportunities for digital connectivity at very low cost to drive growth in commerce and productivity. So let's get down to specifics. When we think about the 4 Ps, the structure that we just talked about, how does technology impact the marketplace? I think most of all, and the biggest impact that technology has had in the last 20, 30 years is it has actually created a new place to sell. If we think of our parents' generation, say about 50 years back, our grandparents' generation, the market was basically a physical place. It could be your house, it could be a place a little farther from the house, it could be a mandi very far from the house, but it was always a physical place. With the internet, we now have a new area to sell, which is via the internet and apps, and that has really revolutionized how we sell, who do we sell to, and what are the methods we're going to use to sell. So as I said, it's expanded geographical reach. There are larger potential markets. We're no longer limited by distance and geography and time. Will we be able to reach the market to buy within a certain time frame? It's fast. We can access information across multiple geographies, multiple producers really fast and connect with different producers really fast. And that has changed the dynamics about how consumers and producers connect with each other. And finally, the fact that data can be stored, tracked, and measured real time has also been impacted by the availability of technology. Third way in which technology has changed marketing is in cost efficiency. Earlier, if we wanted to personalize products, if we wanted to connect with consumers, you had a small set of consumers for whom you could offer really personal service. Think about your neighborhood kirana store. They know the consumers who come every day, but it's a small group of consumers that they know. Now with technology, you have the ability to message, connect, and communicate with 24/7 access to thousands and millions of consumers at the same time. And each consumer has the potential impact of getting a different message. And that has tremendously impacted marketing and productivity. And finally, this is still happening. It is in the nascent stage, but machine learning and artificial intelligence is enabling real-time feedback loops. And this is changing how our products are going to be modified. And that's going to be a future game changer for marketing. So I think when we hear about marketing and we hear about technology, there are a lot of different terms floating around. This is a slide I picked up from Wikipedia that talks about Web 2.0. What are all the different categories behind it? And as you can see, there's a lot of jargon focusing around. So I'm going to again take all these things and package it under two streams, e-commerce and digital marketing. So what is e-commerce? Remember, we talked about the fact that with technology in the last few years, we have what is a new place. Earlier, also, technology has helped expand places. For instance, about 200 years back, we were limited by how far you could go to walk and buy goods. Then you had trains and buses coming along in the last 100 years, and the places and cars coming along, and the places you could go to buy goods expanded. As I said earlier, with technology, now we live in a global world and we can literally shop all over the world for things we want. This growth of e-commerce has been driven by the development of a lot of different technologies. I've put a whole list of them. Internet access obviously is the biggest game changer, but there's a lot of other things in addition to internet access that have also driven the growth of e-commerce. Technology to facilitate electronic data interchange, automated data collection systems, the ability to transfer money online, supply chain management and logistics, nothing to do with marketing, but it has been critical to create the online marketplace. Online transaction processing, inventory management systems. Really, we couldn't have had e-commerce the way we're seeing it today if we did not have all these different technologies. And I think you can have a lecture on almost any one of them. There's so much happening in each one of these areas. So I just wanted to make sure we understand that to what extent and to what depth technology has had to evolve and develop to really create this marketplace that we now call e-commerce. Just to give a little bit of a historical perspective, it takes a while for technology to evolve. And I think the first so-called internet-based transaction happened way back in 1971-72, and this was in the US between two big universities, Stanford and MIT. I think 1994 was when we had the next big transaction, when we had Netscape's browser, which made it really easy to look at different sites on the World Wide Web. And 1995 was a game changer when the US National Science Foundation said that, okay, the internet is no longer an academic, research-oriented thing. You can actually do commercial enterprise on it. And that created a boom in how to use the internet, how to use this new infrastructure to sell products. So in 1995, you have Amazon and eBay launching. In 1998, PayPal and Google launch. In 1999, Alibaba starts. So not only in the US, but in China also, they took an early lead in how do we leverage the internet? How do we leverage this new space? And this has had implications. The fact that China took an early lead, in addition to the US where research was happening, has had interesting implications in how the digital world has evolved. So again, in the 1990s, it was all about just establishing the internet, establishing the foundations. In 2000s, marketing started to come onto the internet. So Google launched AdWords right in 2000, which was the first online search advertising tool. Subsequently, you have social media getting founded, Facebook, YouTube. In 2005, Amazon launched Prime, which was a big game changer again in e-commerce. For the first time, they started offering flat fees, flat shipping, creating an exclusive club. And so they really started transforming the internet from a very transaction-oriented place to a community-oriented place. This is just the beginning, but this is where the seeds of marketing and e-commerce were laid. And so again, I have a long list of things, but pretty much by the 2000s, you had a structure. And after that, the innovation has been how to make it better, how to add tools, how to expand costs, and how to expand reach. So why is everyone so excited? We keep hearing about e-commerce. It's the new growth driver of the future. Because really that's where the growth is. In the past 4 years, the e-commerce market share out of our total market has nearly doubled. It was less than 10%, it is now 15%. And if you look at the analysts, if you look at the experts, everybody believes that this is the place that's going to drive the economy of the future. Just like the railways and roads played their roles in the last 100 and 150 years ago, this is going to play a key role in driving growth in the future. And that's why there are very high expectations for growing the digital economy market, especially in countries like India and China, who perhaps were not as fast on the roads and trains, but really want to take advantage of e-commerce and jump ahead and catch up. So I mean, this slide just shows you what are the growth expectations in e-commerce, and you can see the steep hockey curve that's being anticipated in just 10 years. The interesting thing is the role of China. This kind of shows how e-commerce has evolved. And while most of the research and all the early action happened in the US, in terms of market penetration, as you can see, China has really been the leader. It has the biggest digital economy in the world today. The US is a second follower, followed by some of the other countries like UK and Japan. And really the goals and the expectations that a lot of us have is for India to follow the China path and again become a much larger digital player. So this is something that we'll watch and see whether India does follow that path or not. Now, China spent a lot of effort going down the digital path. It was a deliberate strategy taken by the government over here. Our government's also putting in a lot of effort. Let's see how does that evolve. COVID-19, which is happening, which we're living through, I think we've talked about the fact that we all need to be socially distanced, has been another game changer for e-commerce. Not China, which has always had a very robust digital presence, but the rest of the world has really seen a spike in online and e-commerce sales with the coming of COVID, the social distancing, the stay at home, and the lockdowns. I couldn't find very validated data for the rest of the world, so I picked the slide for the US market, which really shows you how in 1920, the graph, which has been consistently, at around 10%, 11%, just ticks up and crosses 15% right within 1 quarter. So that's a huge change, and that is being driven by the fact that with e-commerce, you can actually shop, you can meet your needs, you can do everything sitting inside your home. So this has been a platform that has really provided the flexibility, the adaptability that really makes sense in a situation like COVID. And what we are hearing from consumers now is, now that we've tried it, we've seen how it works, maybe we're not going to go back. So a lot of customers who had not thought about e-commerce as a main channel are now planning to stay. Earlier, e-commerce was primarily supposed to be an early adopter, younger generation thing. But now a lot of older people are saying, you know what, this works. I've seen how it works, and I'm going to make it work in the future. So there is an expectation that the step up in e-commerce that happened with COVID is going to go on. How has India done? As I said, it is in India also the fastest growing industry, but it is very small as compared to the rest of the world. They are, again, very ambitious forecasts. Goldman Sachs just estimated that Indian e-commerce will reach almost 100 billion by 2025, growing at a humongous 27% CAGR, with grocery and fashion and apparel likely to be the key drivers of incremental growth. Currently, if we look at the Indian market, online market share is probably highest in sectors like travel booking. So currently, it's a very small market with just a couple of sectors having high market share. Most retail segments, which is the bulk of the Indian market, have extremely low penetration. In India also, COVID-19 has accelerated the adoption of the online channel in the grocery and the payment section. And I think the best example I saw for it was when Nestle announced its Q2 2020 results. What they basically said is the e-commerce channel grew so much that e-commerce began to contribute within 1 quarter 3.6% towards domestic sales for Nestle. So again, it's a really clear illustration of how small the segment is, but what are the opportunities for growth and how COVID has actually accelerated adoption within a few key segments. It is important to also remember, though, that within India, during COVID-19, growth has been focused in certain segments because of regulatory environment and some other regulations also provided by the government. So how this market shapes up after COVID may actually follow a very different path than what we're seeing right now. So with that, I'll kind of shift tracks a little bit and move on to digital marketing. Digital marketing, again, is marketing that utilizes the internet as well as digital technologies and platforms to promote goods and services. So unlike e-commerce that happens solely on the internet, digital marketing is used both by e-commerce, which only works on the internet, as well as what are called the traditional bricks and mortar organizations, which is your shops that have a physical presence. So digital marketing expands both on the ground and online, and that makes it different from e-commerce. Digital marketing, e-commerce created a separate channel. Digital marketing, in addition to fulfilling the needs of that separate channel called e-commerce, has enabled access to a much broader market, not only for big organizations, but also for many small home-based creators and craftspeople. It has enabled them to change from being employees to being part-time entrepreneurs, and that has been a big contribution that digital marketing has made in the last, I'd say pretty much in the last decade. This is a really new development that has come up. And again, as I said, one of the key advantages of digital marketing is it integrates tracking, metrics, and customization along with content delivery. And I can't emphasize this enough because remember, marketing is about doing strategy with revenue. So if you just have a channel for advertising, it's really hard to see what is the metrics, is it really successful? So by being able in the last decade to integrate tracking, metrics with content delivery, digital marketing has really boomed in the last decade. So when you think about digital marketing, typically you see a whole number of technologies and a whole number of tactics that get listed. And I just picked one of the slides. This is from the Wall Street Journal. I was looking for a pretty respected data source. And as you can see, there is about 20 different technologies and tactics that are listed under digital marketing, from landing page conversion, e-casting, local search marketing, global search marketing, space per click, content marketing, AdWords, data mining, social media. There's a lot of different tactics that come through in digital marketing. And the application of these different tactics, both by large organizations, e-commerce organizations, as well as ground organizations or brick and mortar organizations, has led to the expectation that digital ad spending is really going to boom. And a lot of marketing dollars are starting now to shift from what is called traditional media channels to online channels. So again, this graph has some projections also, but it kind of shows how from being, about 20–30% of the total media ad spending, digital media is expected to go to 50% of it as early as next year. So again, just to kind of take a little quick look back at history, the internet, as we talked about, started in the 1970s. Digital marketing is much newer. It's considered to have started in the 1990s. And I think the first digital marketing tool was search. That started in the 1990s, followed by popular search engines. Google actually came much later than search engines like Yahoo, Alta Vista. Alta Vista doesn't even exist right now, and Yahoo search is really no longer Yahoo search. Google has become the dominant thing. As early as 1994, you had the first advertising when you had the first clickable banner ad. This was done by AT&T in the US, and it had exceptional receptivity. 44% of all people who saw it clicked on the ad in the 4 months post-launch. Today, if we get something like that, we will be considered the best marketeer of the time. But at that time, to get that sort of a response showed you the potential of the technology, but it was very basic. Internet access was really limited. It was restricted to educational institutions. I remember in the 1990s, I was going to school. We used to go to our school's computer lab and sign on for an hour. And that's when we had access to the email and the internet. So it was very restricted. And mainly the campaigns were email, internet, and intranet campaigns. Very expensive, very restricted, but it's the beginnings in the 1990s. In the 2000s, as I mentioned earlier, social media platforms, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, all of them launched and started creating what are called social networks, what are called communities, what are called experiences. At the same time, technology started creating marketing automation platforms. These platforms started helping marketeers like you and me segment customers automatically off the web at a lower cost. Started laying the groundwork to launch multi-channel marketing campaigns, and also started laying the foundations for what in the last 10 years has become the more personalized information. But this is just when the seeds are being laid. The big transformation in the 2000s, apart from social media, came with the launch of smartphones. I think iPhone launched towards the end of the 2000s. I think it was 2007 probably, but I could be wrong. And a year later, Android launched with its smartphone. And that suddenly transformed access, because suddenly in your phone, in addition to your computer, you had access to the internet. At this time, though, speed and cost were big limiting factors. Data was really expensive and it was slow, and that really limited the adoption of technology. So again, the technologies came, but they still needed a lot of improvement, and that limited how marketing worked with. 2010 onwards is when technology is really evolving. You have high speeds at reduced costs, high bandwidth. Technology is working to use less and less and less data, faster and faster and faster. And that's really when I think this is where we stay, the age of digital marketing comes in. So in the 1990s, you had pilots, you had ideas, but it didn't really take on. 2010 onwards, it's really boomed. And if you're in marketing and don't know digital marketing, people will be, kya kar rahe ho? Where do you think you're going? The other big thing that has helped digital marketing from a technology perspective is data analytics. Big data, I think everybody is hearing about. It's a buzz. It can go in a gazillion different directions. In marketing, what has helped a lot is predictive analytics. Predictive analytics is basically taking all that historical data that the tech companies have and starting to use algorithms and machine learning to start identifying future outcomes. And that has really helped us, because now you can plan sales strategy, revenue strategy, identify the right consumers with it. That has helped push digital marketing. Another technology that has helped a lot is identity resolution. This has helped create, it's also called 360 degrees. It's helped create an all-around view of customers, not based on one transaction. That has helped push digital marketing. And then there are other tools like data onboarding, customer relationship management via automated databases as opposed to humans being supported by computers. And finally, I think as we start looking towards the next decade, the 2020s, there's going to be a lot more of input from artificial intelligence and machine learning. Google has already revised its search algorithms, and it's amazing right now when you look at it. Now you can simply type the questions the way you think about it, and Google will give you answers. So it's one of those amazing tools that's really driving it. That's one of the earlier incorporations of artificial intelligence. What's the future is smart replies, smart content, but that again is still an evolving field right now. Not really got it where we want it to be, but that's where we are aspiring to go. So again, going back to how do we execute this technology, as I said, the earliest tools were search engine optimization, SEO, followed by search engine marketing. Today, it's content marketing and social media, primarily driven through websites and social media, and now due to brand launch filters, especially in social media. On Instagram, on Snapchat, when a brand launches, they not only launch with a complete marketing campaign, an advertisement, a product description, but they try to make it a cool experience to some of these tools. And finally, what has helped us, again, because of the way technology has evolved, is multimedia usage, especially video. I think 10 years back, if you wanted to do something, you wanted to know how to use a product, which product to buy, you talked to people, or you went on the web and read up about it. But today, everybody wants video. They want to see how is it done, they want to feel what is it done, and technology is allowing you to accommodate it. What that's doing again is bringing a similar thing, making it more convenient to customers, making it more cost effective to communicate to customers, building a connect between manufacturers and customers. You know, I talked about the fact that except for China, in most places, the growth of e-commerce has been fairly gradual. And the growth has been gradual, as I mentioned, because of high costs, difficult to access the internet, but also because it was difficult to build that sense of community, that feeling you had when you went to your shop, the shopkeeper knew you, the shopkeeper knew what you wanted. So while you had a lot of choices, that sense of intimacy, that sense of community wasn't coming through so fast. Now with multimedia, with increased content marketing, with social media, with the evolution of technology, bringing in artificial intelligence, bringing in feedback loops, we can see marketing evolving more towards that experience, and that is pushing more and more of the purchasing decision onto the internet. And so marketing has to evolve and continue to make sure you can reach out to the customers and communicate about them so that you can sell and build your brand. I also wanted to talk about the fact, in the past, I'm talking about how technology has allowed transformation on the digital side of things that were happening in the shop. It was replicating that experience, expanding that experience, making it broader. In certain ways, digital media has also reshaped marketing. And I think one of the biggest differences has been the rise of digital influencers. 25 years back, if you were a marketing manager and you wanted an influencer, you would go pick a sports star, Kapil Dev, you would pick a film star, or you would pick a model, and you would say, hey, will you be my brand spokesperson? Person needed to have name recognition for him to or her to be able to promote your brand. With digital marketing, with what we say, the tools being available to anybody, to entrepreneurs, to homemakers, to students, to craftspeople, and being available at a very low cost and being easily accessible, almost everybody can now become an influencer. And so you have the rise of many young people who are now becoming digital influencers because they are very skilled in presenting information, collating information. So I have a picture here of this website, Bake with Shivesh. I know Shivesh. He started posting on Instagram, started posting on Facebook, showcasing how he baked, the different desserts he made. Today, he has more than 1 million followers on Instagram. He has published a book with HarperCollins. So in a way, the rise of digital influencers has kind of turned this paradigm of who is an influencer a little upside down. Earlier, you had to spend years writing books, being an academic, being a sports star, being a film star to be able to be considered an influencer. Now you have the ability, because of digital marketing, because of the easy availability of tools and technology, if you have the skills to start showcasing your skills, and you'll become an influencer, and the books, the films, and the TV are going to come to you. The other big change is incorporating, as I said, video and virtual reality. We already talked about video. Virtual reality is now coming into marketing. And this again is a game changer where you're not extending the shop to the internet, but you're actually giving added value to your customer. For instance, I have a picture of IKEA stool. What IKEA does is you can go on their website, you can go on their shop, you can take their catalog. This is not globally available, but in certain countries. They have QR codes attached to some of their furniture. One of the biggest challenges you have when you look at an IKEA catalog or you go to an IKEA store is, how will this furniture look in my home? You scan the QR code, you take a picture of, you scan the picture around your house, and it will show you exactly how that furniture will look in your house. This is something that you did not have with an old shop. When you went to a shop, you still had the challenge, how will this chair look in my house? So in some ways, now technology is evolving to a place where it is giving us enhanced tools and really making marketing a cool place to be. As I mentioned, digital marketing is not only about e-commerce. One of the big benefits that digital marketing has got is really merging what is called online and on-the-ground marketing. So I have here two examples. One is experiential marketing. You hear of a lot of different experiential marketing ideas. For instance, you have pop-ups, you have food festivals, you have special stores. So I have a picture of a Maggie event. This was again organized by a young kid just out of college with 4 years experience. He basically went around, got a number of food vendors who sell Maggie in different forms, got a bunch of advertising for Maggie, and Maggie sponsored the event because it gave them tremendous publicity on how the thing works. So it's clear, again, it's an example of how you're no longer segmenting. You don't have to go to the shop to get the benefit. You don't have to go to the TV. All the different medias are merging. And at the same time, individual creative people are able to use the technology and shine. Another way in which online and on-ground marketing is now merging, and this is the trend of the 20th century, is community engagement. You see this in a lot of beauty stores. It got started with Sephora in the US, where they created communities of buyers. Every time you bought, you got points, you got free gifts. I mean, half the time you walked into the store, you could do half of your purchasing for free and half of your purchasing you paid for. You got the same experience whether you were online or you went to a Sephora store. So these again are new tools that are now emerging as digital marketing is maturing and becoming the way to go, whether it's a brick and mortar store or e-commerce. And finally, just kind of going on this theme, where do I see digital marketing going? I think if you talk to the experts, much more personalization and localization. The area that we expect the most growth to come is local and mobile search. So now I don't go online on my computer and say, I want to buy a book. You open your Google phone and you say, hey, show me a store near me that sells this, or what's the fastest way to get this information? So this personalization and localization is a place that expected to grow a lot. Again, personalized messaging and websites. And again, I know I'm repeating myself, but use of AI and machine learning. We've already talked about omni-channel marketing. It's a big buzzword right now. Really what it means is, instead of having segmented messaging for online, offline, for movie theaters, you have the same content and messaging flowing across different contents. And that's great for brand building. Because as all of us who are in marketing know, if you can give a consistent message, stay on strategy across all segments, if you do not have to tailor it to the needs of the technology, you can really get the best brand recognition and the best return on your investment. Another new area of technology that's going to be very exciting in the future is chatbots and private messaging. You're already seeing that. I think sometimes we go into overkill because every marketing manager says, get me a chatbot and get me my own private messaging app. So there's going to be a balancing act. How do you do it so that the customer doesn't get bored with you and stays attracted to you? But that definitely is an area of future, along with voice-powered search. But ultimately, the goal has to be, how do you get that personalized message? How do you enhance customer satisfaction so that the customer comes back to you? Which is really that fundamental problem of how do you position your product. So a tool is a tool. It's only as good as you can use it. But what digital marketing and what e-commerce have done is they've broadened the reach, given us many more opportunities. They've given us a new place to do business with e-commerce. they've given us much more choices as consumers. We can now shop from anywhere at a time that's convenient to us. We can shop in our neighborhood. We can shop from far away. Product development has changed. Instead of one size fits all, people are now starting to create personalized products for different segments. And it's given us the ability as customers to provide instant feedback and see much faster product development cycles. Sellers have benefited because they have global reach. They can expand their efforts. They can target many different segments, all at fairly cost-efficient, in a fairly cost-efficient way. There've also been, some changes that may not be as positive. As segments have changed, as tools have changed, there have been winners, as I said, some of these creative marketers, some of the people who have sold on the internet have been winners. There have also been people who have lost out. So, I'm not going to say it has been a win-win for everybody. There are environmental costs that come with marketing, that come with the e-commerce arena, and we need to be conscious with them. And they have brought their own online fraud and hacking. Because the digital arena is so big, has global reach, is so convenient, online fraud and hacking has much more global reach, makes life miserable for a lot more people than the earlier hacks, where earlier you went and you robbed a shop, and the damage was limited to one shop. Now one guy at one go can rob millions of people. So yes, there's some negative impacts also of the internet on the marketplace. So in conclusion, I think they're really exciting times ahead. Marketing continues to blend technology with strategy. The goal still has to be, how do you drive growth and how do you drive customer satisfaction? The traditional economy is still dominating, but the times, as they say, are changing, and we're going to have lots of opportunity for learning and growth. That's all I had to say, and I thought I'd take some questions, so thank you.
Well, extremely brilliant, I must say. Thank you so much, Sangeetha. This 360-degree view of the evolution of marketing in response to information technology. I think, in the last 35 to 40 minutes, we have lived through marketing, starting from its basic inception to the way it looks to be today, and also the future. You have given us some insights into the future as well. Thank you so much for that. I have two questions for you. If you permit me, I'd like to present that to you, right?
Sure, I hope I can answer them. We will see.
Of course, of course. Okay, first of all, I have to compliment you for such a brilliant presentation. And I also have to say that you have made our IT Conclave international, because I know it must be around approximately 10 p.m. in California midnight. At this point in time. Yeah?
Midnight.
Oh, it's midnight. Oh my God. Oh God. So, I have to thank you for taking out your valuable time at this hour of the night. Yeah. And making this conference totally global in its orientation. As an opening speaker, you have actually set the tone for the entire IT Conclave to move ahead. The first question I have for you is, when you look at the ecosystem in the US and you compare it with the ecosystem here in India, how do you think, can you visualize the role of a consumer in both the places? So moving ahead, how is this role of the consumer going to impact the way in which companies are going to respond?
So I'm going to paraphrase your question a little bit. The role of the consumer everywhere is the same, to consume.
Yeah.
They are looking to consume. I think how they consume has changed. So I think 10 years back, it was very different between the US and India because there was much more internet access within the US as compared to India. But I think now with the new mobile geo and everything, and a lot of people now having mobile phones, a lot of people having smartphones, there has been more access. So I think the big difference is how fast you give access. And that's why I brought China in, because what China did is China gave digital access to everybody. And that really drove the boom of the internet in China. If you have digital access, you're looking at places. So over there, instead of developing bricks and mortar, in China, they developed digital first and bricks and mortar almost in parallel with digital. Because when they started that journey, they didn't have much bricks and mortar. They didn't have much digital. They focused on digital and they gave everybody digital. In the US, bricks and mortar were dominant, so e-commerce had to fight and establish a niche for it against e-commerce. So that is the path the US has taken. I think India will be hybrid because India, unlike China, does have a bricks and mortar presence. Not as well resourced, but it does have a bricks and mortar presence. And I talked about it during COVID-19. Grocery and essential goods have thrived on the internet. But the government has also said that non-essential goods cannot be done on the internet, right? So yeah. We'll have to see the regulatory environment. I think we don't have the same access that we have in China. We still don't have the same access that we have in the US, but we have a bunch of very talented marketing people who are really trying very hard and who are duplicating and doing a lot of really cool things. So the talent is there. We now have to see how is the infrastructure evolving and how does the regulatory environment evolve.
Yeah. I think you are pretty much, kind of given a correct assessment of the current scenario which exists in India. While we have talent on one hand, yes, we do have some challenges in terms of the infrastructure, including the internet access.
And we've seen the difference.
Yeah, I agree totally. Yeah. One more question that I wanted to present before you is about revenues. There's often this battle in terms of, all the marketing departments trying to say that let's use more of maybe digital platforms in order to economize on the expenses that we make. But do you think that's an actual good strategy to live by?
So I will tell you, that's why I kept saying strategy is very important. Pure economizing is not a good strategy, but going overboard and blowing your money through without thinking of the ROI is not a good strategy either. As a marketer, you have to be very clear. Yes, you have to invest in a product, but you have to define, I'm going to invest. I expect within this time frame, I will get a return on my investment, because if you just keep blowing through your cash, you will not be left with any money. You'll be out of a job and the company will be out of the space within a certain time period. On the other hand, the reason for digital marketing is not to economize. I think what I've tried to emphasize is digital marketing did not go much if you just looked at it from a costing. It is only because now you can do video, you can do virtual reality, you can do online and off on the ground together in a very economical way that digital marketing has taken off. So if you're thinking digital marketing is going to be, instead of this, I will do this to save money, not a good idea. Remember, marketing is about product, price, promotion, positioning. Who is your target audience? If your target audience is not digital and you blow your budget on digital marketing thinking, hey, this is going to be my way, not going to happen.
Perfect. So thank you once again for answering these two questions and also being with us at midnight. I know it's a very difficult, proposition from our end. I mean, we have kept you awake for this long. But I must say, it has been, a pure pleasure to have you around and be our opening speaker for the IT Conclave. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you, and happy Navratri.
Happy Navratri to everyone. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I think we can take it ahead.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Ms. Sangeetha ma'am and Director ma'am for your valuable inputs. On this note, I would like to continue ahead. Good morning, everyone. I, Vishal Mehta of IT Club, would like to take this opportunity further. Information technology has done wonders. Today, wherever we see, there's a buzz of data science, data analytics, AI, and MI. Operations, as we consider as a backbone for every industry, where 70% of cost goes in purchasing raw materials, inventory management, timely delivery, purchase receipts, and customer feedbacks. Thus, it becomes very essential to monitor all this cost on a real-time basis. So what is the role of IT in operations? The primary function of IT in operations is to maintain a day-to-day operational activities, identify the overall performance, protect data privacy. How faster you deliver, check on pricing, how much you reduce your overall cost can protect and make you a competitive advantage. So on this note, I would like to invite our next guest for the day, Mr. Apurva Mankan, CEO and founder of Web Express.
Hi, good morning to you all. Are you able to hear me clearly?
Yes, sir. Good morning.
Hi. So thanks a lot for inviting me to Aditya Institute again, and very happy to share with students, the entire innovation paradigm as we are all into the middle of it. And I was listening to the previous speaker, Sangeetha Prasad, and really interesting to understand her perspective coming from where she is, and of course, as a person from India, how both these markets are compared. So good to be a part of this conclave. And without much ado, let me start with my session. And I hope it will be useful to all the students and faculty and other members who have spent a Saturday morning attending this. So let me start my presentation. I hope you are able to see it. And I hope my voice is clear.
Yes, sir, it's clear.
Okay. Yeah, because these days the internet is sometimes misbehaving, though I am on a good fiber optic connection. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about, that the Indian way, where a technology works in a very, very different manner than probably the rest of the world sees it. And fairly unique in that sense, and that too specifically in a sector called logistics, right? So let me quickly talk about what we do as a company, and then I'll move on to what logistics does. So we are essentially a technology company focused on emerging markets. As you can see from the yellow dots, we work mainly in India and Southeast Asia and Middle East kind of markets. We do not really work in Europe and USA kind of markets. We are a very emerging focused market, providing solutions like transportation, warehousing, e-commerce, logistics. So we've been really lucky to work with a very wide range of customers. I call it rainbow, right from people who are startups to people who are very large multinational giants being our customers and using our system as an operating system. So we have a good perspective of what's happening in the world of logistics. We are a fairly scaled company. These days it's easier to achieve scale in terms of your data and technology, even though you may not have a physical scale, and that's the interesting part about our times. So we be it vehicles we manage, or the bookings we do, or the IoT signals that we manage. We have a fairly large, set of customers and transactions that we manage on a given day. Of course, let me always qualify by saying that when you say large, it's a relative word, especially in a country like India. When you start with the Himalayas, everything else is very small. So India is a very large market, and it's an extremely diversified, raucous, challenging place. I think like no other place in the world. Absolutely. It's a big market as far as logistics is concerned. I will just give a couple of parameters about this market. Our focus will be on innovation in India. So, but at the same time, just to give an idea of logistics. So, despite all the gloom around us, that the economy is on autopilot, we are going to go have 10% negative growth in 2020-21, and people don't even know where we will be growing very fast enough, and where China is gone. So all that news that we keep on hearing about, that's great. It has its own place, and of course, there is a lot of truth about it. But in logistics sector, what we are looking at are only upward graphs. Okay, so in front of you there is the warehousing. The Indian warehousing is very, very primitive. And one of the things India is doing is what is called as we are in the catch-up phase of the economic growth. We are still way behind many, many countries, right? So we are catching up, essentially. And that catching up should be way more rapid is what everybody's arguing. But it is rapid. It's not that it is slow. So we are looking at 150% growth in sheer warehousing space availability, what we call as a grade A and grade B. It's like, you're moving from chawls to swanky buildings, right? So Mumbai used to be only chawls once upon a time. And today you've got some very world-class buildings coming up. Same way in the logistics space. And we are looking at 150% growth in next 2 years of time. Believe you me, we are not talking any of these numbers which are going to be 2030. We are talking numbers which are next 3, 4, 5 years, right? Same way, the entire express cargo industry, the modern end of the logistics industry, people like FedEx, for example, or people like delivery, for example, or people whom you see in nice shining trucks delivering stuff, not the age-old Khatara that we normally are used to. So logistics is of course the rainbow, as I said, and we are looking at doubling of that market as well. And it will become almost 48,000 CR in 2 years of time. And these forecasts are valid even today after post-COVID. Let me assure you of that. Same way, if you look at e-commerce, right now we are in the middle of the e-commerce sales. They've just started. Everybody's expecting almost about $7 billion of sales to happen in the next 15 days of time. Now that's like crazy, right? $7 billion of sales. And India's entire e-commerce market was 7 billion just about 3-4 years ago. And this year we will be obviously touching almost, if Diwali is X, then total market is 3X. That's how normally it is counted. So e-commerce market will be about $21-22 billion in this year. And this is one sector where everybody has seen the growth, but I will say you've seen nothing, right? So if you look at this chart and you look at 2020, it's quite behind here. Somewhere we are in about 35 odd million packages being moved every day. This will grow to close to 100 million packages being moved every day, right? The e-commerce itself will triple from where it is right now. So Diwali 2 years later or 3 years later, you will be hearing that, oh, we are doing $20 billion of sales this Diwali. And that's going to happen, for sure as more e-commerce happens. So we are very gung-ho about logistics. All this requires logistics, right? Parcels, shipments, warehousing. Where will we go without the underlying logistics services? So we are looking at a very good future per se. Having said that, let's look at the tech macro trends which are shaping logistics, right? Let's look at fundamentally 3 areas. One, which I'm sure almost every speaker anywhere will talk to you about, that India is world's second largest smartphone population now, right? We are almost 500 million plus people. And this Venn diagram I've drawn, and this is something which many of the students whom I work with know, I use it very often, to show that we are going to be a very mobile only market. World over, people have a computer and they also have moved to mobile phone. Most of the developed countries, everybody will be having an access to a laptop or a PC, and then they are using mobile phone maybe more amount of time. But India is a country where if you go to a village, somebody is, minding the cows, and then he's on his smartphone. He's never going to go to a laptop or a desktop. You're going to have an entire market of 500 million today, and maybe in 3 years of time, almost 800 odd million people, right? Largest number apart from China in the world, who will be only using smartphone. Which means if you are doing anything future, if you are not considering smartphone, in fact, you can forget to use PC if you want to, as far as your business models are concerned, right? The cloud computing, which is the second trend. Again, one more industry which is growing superbly and super fast. So I will always request students, never look at the gloom part of the story, always look at the boom part of the story, right? So here is one more area, which is the booming area. From 2018 at a base of about $2.6 billion, right? We are moving to almost $8 billion in next about, let's say, 2 years or 3 years of time. 8 billion at today's rate, multiplied by 7,000 CR per billion, right? So you're talking about 55,000 crores worth of market. It's a massive market. And imagine you are adding almost 6 billion of that in next 3 years of time. So you can imagine the sale rush that must be happening in the cloud computing world, right? And finally, something which is already upon us, the Internet of Things, which we don't even see probably, but it's already upon us. You are having almost 50 billion devices in this world which are connected to the Internet today in some or the other way. Of course, all your mobile phones, but the mobile phones are about 5 billion in number across the world, right? So then there are so many other devices. You take a lift, for example, or you take a smart heater, for example, or a lot of industrial devices, the vehicles. So you're going to see a lot of connected thing, and the world is looking at about 50 billion devices. And today, India will have a very small share of that. So you can imagine if India starts growing in those billions of devices, you're talking about kind of cloud-based Internet of Things. So these are the trends which will drive logistics over the next 10 years of time. Let's talk about innovation. Innovation is a much used, abused word and much discussed word today. And the world is full of people who have kind of gone really deep into what innovation means, how it works. I have tried to kind of put together a couple of things. One, of course, as all of you might have seen, there are 4 types of innovation if you go by one of the models. Essentially saying, which are incremental in nature, which are gradual, continuous improvement on an existing product and service, right? Then there are sustenance module, where you are making a significant improvement on a product, right? And it will take a position, big one in the existing market. And then there are disruptive models, totally new technology or business models that will simply disrupt the existing market and a new thing will come. Like smartphone came in, the feature phone market to give way. And then there are radical, the technological breakthroughs nobody probably thought about some years ago. So a lot of people are talking about AI and ML being such radical, and many things driven by the same. You have to also remember that there is something called as the Gartner's technology hype cycle, that almost any innovation always goes through a trigger, and then everybody talks about only that innovation. Then someday people realize, oh, it's not so great. It comes down, and then ultimately it becomes part of life. For example, GPS is something which was once upon a time considered cutting edge technology in 2010. Today, you will not even worry about using Google Maps on a daily basis, right? And that's become what we call as plateau of productivity. Use it every day. There is no big deal about it. Voice technology, right? We have been wondering about voice programs and voice algorithms for like 30 years. Human beings have been very fascinated, but today voice is very common. You got an Alexa Echo Dot available on Amazon today for 2,000 rupees, right? A very fantastically, AI ML driven voice device. So that's the innovation for you. But now let's talk about Indian companies, right? If you look at this matrix, you must remember that India is even today still not at the disruptive and radical part of the end. We can still be called incremental change people. We are not yet, and when I say we, you have to say dominant, right? There will be one company out there which will do fantastic innovation, but that doesn't define a country. When you take a country, you have to look at a large number of industries, companies driving innovation. If you look at radical, let's say you take Israel, it's a very, very radical technology-driven, economy, small economy, very, very minor economy if you look at the world stage, but they were huge weight because of historical and of course their intellectual reasons. US remains a top dog. It's not that people don't do incremental change in USA, but they definitely dominate the radical and the disruptive part of it, where China has gotten in a big way. And China has also got into sustaining, where Japan, which used to be once upon a time the very big disruptor, is more or less on the sustaining and the incremental way. When is the last time we heard a Japanese Facebook, right? Or a Japanese, for example, home system where like a Google Home or a Echo Dot kind of system. These are all now coming from USA, and increasingly you will see like Huawei, for example, coming from China. So India, in a way, we have to recognize, and it's very important to recognize, because if you try to say I'm going to be on the radical part of it, you must find a market for it, right? So today in India, at an innovation index, we are at a good number, but we are not in the top 10. We are fantastic in terms of our market sophistication and tech output. But if you look at our infrastructure, creative, human capital institutions, there is work to be done. That's the reality, and you play with that reality, right? So I'm not going to talk about any of these which are on your screen right now. These are all what we call as the cutting edge technologies in the logistics. So be it a VR based warehouse or autonomous vehicles or drone based delivery or robotic movement of packaging, etc. I will be leaving this presentation with your team, and you can always watch these videos later on. I'm not going to really use that today, and I'll tell you why. As I mentioned, this is about Indian IT companies, Indian companies using IT for innovation. So we will try to focus on what we have been able to do in India and which has made an impact. All these are future technologies. Someday they will really make their presence felt, but most of them are yet to make their presence felt in a big way, even in the rich countries. So typically there is going to be a lag. One important point is that most of these technologies that you see are also what we call as capital intensive technology. So let's say, for example, if you want to put up an autonomous vehicle, and even if it's available, that's going to cost you 5 crore rupees. How many Indian trucking companies who usually buy a truck at, let's say, 25 lakh rupees can buy an autonomous vehicle in a good number, assuming it's available in the market tomorrow, which it is not. So be it your automation or warehouse robots, etc. India being a poorer country and a capital scarce country as we use it, we pay 10% interest rate on everything. USA pays 2% or in fact almost 1%. You are going to have a problem adopting many of these areas. And of course, do remember a lot of automation effectively is in those countries where there are no human beings. You have got New Zealand where you've got probably 5 million people and 50 million cows. You need automation, right? We probably have a more equal ratio of cows and human beings. I'm sure Indians are more than number of cows. I don't know. I've not done the research. So we have limitations in that area, and we have to recognize that. So as students, I would expect you to do that. Let me stop this. Okay. So we are going to talk about the innovation cases in Indian logistics, and I have divided them into 3 areas. So there are startup-driven, initiatives. There are regulation-driven innovations, and in India, talking about regulation and innovation are like music to your ears, given the kind of governance structure that we have had over the last 50, 60 years. And of course, there are ground-up driven. What is the difference between the two? Startup driven are people who have been invested into, let's say, a PE fund or a VC fund, and they come up with a bright idea and a bright way of doing it, and they kind of, try to come in the market and offer the solution. Regulation is when the government changes something, right? You're forced to follow. And a lot of innovation in the world today is regulation driven. For example, if I were a regulation that, you cannot drive for more than 8 hours a day, a driver, for example, a regulation which is there, let's say in Australia, or even in USA these days, because they feel the driver will get tired and do an accident. How do I monitor it? So a lot of people got into, putting technology together to finding out, putting the record, data, reports, etc. That's regulation driven, as you call it. In India, I will be talking about a few of these. Given the time constraint that we have, we can't really talk about every innovation. So I will be talking about the driver relay model. That's one thing, the e-way system, and of course, one area in the area of ground up, driven innovation per se. So let me start with the EV. Now, electronic vehicle, I will personally say, is probably something which can really change face of a lot of things in India. India is very way down in logistics index. One of the reasons is that our roads are poor, and because our roads are poor, our mileage is low, our vehicles are older, our roads are poor, of course our driving habits are not fantastic, and we don't really maintain our vehicles well. So it's an invitation to poor mileage. Indian vehicles have about a mileage of 3.5 kilometers per liter. I'm talking about trucks, and the one in the picture with you probably will have a mileage of probably 1 kilometer or 1.5 kilometer per liter of 77 rupees of diesel. Right, so straightforward, if you're having 4 kilometers per liter, your straightforward cost divided by 70 is going to be about 75 divided by 80 divided by 4 is almost about 20 rupees a kilometer you're spending on fuel. It's an expensive fuel as far as India is concerned, right? And then of course you've got other costs. Now let's imagine that 20 rupees becomes 2 rupees. Now that's a fantastic disruptor, right? Good enough a reason for me to go electric. Of course, electric is early stage, but you have one company in India called Infra Prime Logistics. Now, these guys just invented one electric vehicle. Now, we have been waiting, looking at, USA, when Tesla will come, Elon, please come, Musk, please come, do something for us. These guys go, they build some indigenous lithium ion based packs, put it on top of a truck, and they said we are going to manufacture, and they are running 300, 400 kilometer kind of range for a big truck. Remember, 30, 60 tonners, right? These are all big vehicles. They typically are using it for mining kind of operations. One of the reasons is that the radius is limited, right? And because of that, you don't have to really do cross country. So you don't need to worry about charging points. And you can also do a replaceable battery pack kind of a innovation. So this company has come up, and they are having almost 5,000 odd fleet operators who are on their platform, and they've come up with this entire solution for battery pack based EV. Very small number. Do note India has got almost about 10 million, 1 crore commercial vehicles, right? So when you say out of 1 crore commercial vehicles, I'm selling 5,000 vehicles, right? So that's a very small number. How many years it will take you get to reach a point? But do note India is a very smart country. Do you know that India is probably one of the biggest users of EV vehicles in the world? And they are almost all of them are found in North India in e-rickshaws. And if you go to Delhi, especially East Delhi and not in, let's say, Purana Delhi, like Chandni Chowk and that area, you will find everywhere e-scooters or e-rickshaws. Fitting in some 5 people, 6 people. Hello.
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Are you able to hear me?
Yes, sir.
Are you able to see my screen? Because I think it's gone from my side.
We can see you, sir.
You can see me, but my screen?
Yes.
Okay, sorry, I think it got disrupted a little since we are talking about disruption. Okay, so e-rickshaw is everywhere in India. And a lot of companies have decided to use EV vehicles for last mile deliveries, especially companies like Flipkart and companies like those have gone on record saying that we will be using a lot of last mile electronic vehicles. So in India, EV will happen, and it will happen in a very different way than it will happen in USA. USA is all Tesla, driven by Tesla, what's happening by Elon Musk and 10, 20 other people fighting in the passenger car segment. India will happen much more in the commercial segment. There is money to save. Right, and India being a cost-conscious country, as I said, this is going to be really a big, force of EVs. And I will not say it's going to become. See, in India, nothing becomes dominant. in zero time. So we are a country which has not been dominated by anybody. We don't let anyone dominate us, and we are so large, so diverse, nothing dominates, right? And to somebody to acquire market share in India is a struggle, because different type of people, different type of it's literally so many countries built into one. You got a Bihar, a very poor state. You got Maharashtra, a very rich state. The buying power is like 4x, and so nothing is going to be like one uniform solution. And that's why this EVs, funnily, have all worked in poor places where people are not ready to afford, because the running cost of battery is nothing. Do note, those contraptions are quite risky. But so is so many things in India. But when they are like, freely running, and there are probably close to in India about nothing less than 5 lakh such vehicles already moving, and they are being sold every day. EV is a big market. But I'm talking about EV in logistics. You're going to see a lot of big trucks in some restricted areas. And of course, as I said, last mile, you're going to see a lot of EV. So that's one disruption, which is, I will say, ground up driven, in the sense some people thought that we'll put it together, no VC funding, no Silicon Valley background. They just came and put together something. And that is, I will not call it a jugaad. It's a proper company which is doing this job. But then there are a lot of people who are doing innovation, which can border on, something which is probably a jugaad kind of a thing. But I'm not a big fan of jugaad. That doesn't really work on scale. It may work for few people for some time. The next one. Now, if you look at government of India, I think they have been one of the big disruptors. And my next two cases are regarding government-led disruptions. Now, in itself, this innovation is 50 years old. What is the big deal on taking electronic cash, right? I mean, USA deployed their interstate system in 1960s, and they probably introduced electronic way of payment way back in 1980s, right? Where every car is a tag, and you basically go through a gate and it takes your toll, and you don't need to really pay cash. You want to pay cash, you do go to in some corner somewhere, and really sometimes in many toll you will not even find that option. You get stuck, especially on the interstate network, right? So nothing new about tolling and electronic tolling. But India had no electronic tolling till date of to speak. And we have been wondering what to do and how to do, and many governments came, went, and then Mr. Nitin Gadkari became the minister, and he said nothing doing. I'm going to drive this. Not that FASTag started with Mr. Gadkari. It was around. He is a very driven man, and he said nothing doing. I'm going to make it mandatory. How do you make mandatory of tag of country which is so raucous and almost to the point of being lawless sometimes? How do you make sure everybody pays and buys these toll tags? So they went and mandated, saying December 1, 2019, if you have toll, fine, otherwise I'm going to charge you double. Okay, I'll not stop you. Most welcome. Instead of 50 rupees, you pay 100 rupees. Now, Indians don't like to pay that kind of money, right? So suddenly, overnight, the tag sale went through the roof. And today we are sitting at 15 million FASTags which have been issued, of which 50% are in last year. Do note, today, mainly the FASTag is covering national highways. The map that you see on that screen that in front of you, it can indicate to you which are public funded, which are built, operate, transferred, which are outside, etc. But you can see typically a very big Jumka near Delhi North type of area, a very big Jumka near Mumbai, Gujarat, and a little scars kind of a thing on the eastern side, kind of reflecting the economic structure of the country in a way. But you can see there is toll everywhere which is electronic. You can't say in India, I can't pay toll by electronic means. And there are some very funny innovations India had to do. Initially, there used to be toll lanes. Now there was only one toll lane and 20 normal lanes, for example. So the toll lane will have a queue, and rest of the toll booths will be free. So that's a very funny thing. Secondly, when they had more toll lanes, Indians don't wait for anything called toll. वो घुस जाते हैं सारे. अब क्या करो? So then they said, okay, we'll do a small innovation, very incremental innovation. They said, let's make every lane toll enabled. At least you can pay using toll. And the drivers and the truckers said, for us, the convenience of toll is not that we are able to pay we are able to go through gate faster. Fine, it will take me 5 minutes. Instead of that, it may take me 7 minutes. I don't mind. But I no longer have to give cash to the driver. And do note, this is all post demonetization, where there is no longer money in hand of people. And anyway, cash is being discouraged by so many initiatives in India. So this became a very big thing. And today we are looking at a 18,000 crore market per year. Remember, I told about cloud computing, $2.6 billion market. So now you've got FASTag, which is bigger than cloud computing in India. And by the time cloud becomes $8 billion, FASTag will also become probably $10 billion or $15 billion market. Right, and still it will cover a minority speck of a market, probably at around 7, 8, 9, 10% of roads. Of course, given that this government is really going, whole hog, it's going to really happen in a big way. Do note that this entire toll data unlike many other countries who deployed the tolling system, is all on a uniform system called FASTag. And that entire data is available to the Ministry of Road and Transport, for example, the central government, and they are able to actually monitor the traffic in real time as to what is happening in every toll naka, how many vehicles are moving, what is the departure, and what exactly is happening at what time. They have enough amount of data available for analytics, based on which they can decide which routes to improve, which are the roads where we can probably have lesser toll because there is a density is very good, and instead of a concession which is, let's say, 5-year or 15-year, I can make the concession maybe 20-year or 8-year or whatever it may be. So a very interesting work is being done in the background by a very humble technology called electronic toll, right? It's a very humble technology, no big deal, it's been invented many decades ago. Now let's take an example of a private sector initiative, which is a startup, I will say. So Rivigo is a very famous startup. In fact, it's a world famous startup now because their case studies have been published in many countries, and many international agencies have taken it up. What did they do? So they basically looked at this problem. What they call pilot, don't get misled, it's not a plane pilot, it's a truck pilot. They call him a pilot instead of a driver, right? Because they feel that he's as important and he should be given a lot of importance. It's a good thought. So in 82, we had about 1,300 drivers per 1,000 trucks. Fast forward to 2022, we are going to have 480 drivers for 1,000 trucks, which means there are less drivers than trucks by 50%, which means for every 2 trucks, there is only 1 driver, right? Which means even if you buy a truck, you won't find anybody to drive it. And one of the reasons is that long haul trucking drivers are not ready to do the job. If many of you are MBA students, let's say, for example, I give you a salary of 1 lakh rupees a month. I'm sure you will take the job. But if I say that job is of a driver who has to every day travel from Mumbai, then to Gujarat, then to Rajasthan, then to Delhi, then to Patna, then to Hyderabad, and then you will come home, will you take that job? Yes, and I'll take 50,000 rupees job. I don't mind, but I don't want to do this job. Nobody who is educated wants to take this job because it's not a good job. And there is a lot of jobs available as a driver, but nobody is ready to take it. So what are you going to do? You are going to have a big gap. So Rivigo said, let's do one thing. Let's reduce the number of days a driver is to drive, right? So they came up with this relay model. So they said, we'll create pit stops on highways. So let's say Mumbai to Bangalore, there is a highway, right? Running 2,300 kilometers. So every 400 kilometers or 300 kilometers or 500 kilometers based on the highway speed, I'll put a pit stop, which is nothing but a rest area, right? A driver one will drive from, let's say, pit stop 1 to pit stop 2, and then he will take that vehicle and then he will get off at pit stop. Then the driver 2 will come, he will drive the vehicle from pit stop 2 to 3, and so on and so forth all the way. Now, this driver 3, once he drops the, let's say, vehicle to the last pit stop, he will take a next vehicle, drop at the previous one. Then this vehicle will go forward. The driver 2 was waiting there. He's taking that vehicle. Then the driver 1, which he's going to take one. So driver 1 actually is back in the night. Now, of course, I've shown a simplistic example. This will require you to have a very good algorithm and many number of vehicles to make sure the driver waiting time is very less. It cannot be the driver is waiting for 6 hours waiting for a vehicle. So of course it has to be worked out, which is what this company did, investing a lot of money into technology, into algorithms, into studying these various routes, mapping them, and they've kind of come up with this entire model, which has been recognized all over the world for its humanness. Why? Because they are suddenly telling a driver, you don't need to go from Delhi to Chennai and come back in 15 days. You can simply come back tonight to your home. Suddenly, the number of people who want to take up that job of a driver, still not MBAs, has gone up because the life has improved for the driver. So if this is done on scale, definitely it can address, because there is less shortage of short haul drivers. There is more shortage of long haul drivers in that shortage. So very interesting model, innovation done in India. Third one, e-way bill. I'm sure you've heard of this term called e-way bill, many of you. Let me explain what e-way bill is. So in India is a unique where if you want to move your material which is costing more than 50,000 rupees, you must create an electronic gate pass to move it if you are moving for more than 50 kilometers, right? So 50,000 rupees, 50 kilometers. Let's say if you want to move a set of televisions from Mumbai to, let's say, Ahmedabad, right? You must create an invoice. The invoice can cost 1 crore rupees also, about 50,000 can be anything. So for the entire truck, you can create one e-way bill. Now that e-way bill must have 3 information. Your information as a shipper, your GST number, the person to whom you are sending this material to, the consignee, his GST number, and of course the transporter's ID, the one who is moving this cargo. Why this was done? Because people felt that a lot of GST invoices were made which were fake. just to take input credit, and persons in Mumbai and Gujarat will collude. They will send wrong GST invoice which has no physical good below it, and then they will use it to just take input credit, and a lot of scams happen. So they created this e-way bill to have a physical proof of movement connected to the GST. Now, very unique Indian concept all over the world. Even the GST in India is a very unique Indian GST in its own way. It is good and bad, different story. Now, these e-way bills have to be issued, and this was started in 2019. We are in 2020, right? April 2019, we went live, and we have started straightforward at 5 crore e-way bills a month, and we have stayed that way, right? Of course, because of the COVID, you can see the graph, it fell, boom, April, nothing, 0.85 from 5 crore. Back in September, we are again back to 5.5 crores, so 5.6 crore, 5.5 crore, that about number of e-way bills which are issued. That means there are 5.5 crore movements that government of India can track with all the information. Who was the consigner, who is the consignee, which is a truck driver, not driver, but truck operator who did that, what was the distance that was moved, what was the material inside that. All this information is available to you electronically. You frankly don't need any statistical organization to go and do any surveys anymore. You can look at the GST data, you can look at the e-way bill data, and you can make out what is going on in the country. Now, of course, it's a government mandate, so people had to adopt, no choice. Same way FASTag, government's mandate, no choice, you have to adopt. So it's a regulation-driven innovation, but it's amazing. Using that data, companies can now, literally look at the trend. They can look at how the movements are happening over time. Startups are taking that data to obviously create a lot of heat maps and see how we are able to have what kind of material moving in what season, by which kind of players. All this analysis is now available to improve your supply chain, right? Very, very unique initiative at scale, and India scale, right? Like 57 million or 5.7 crore a month is not a joke, right? This is a very big number. This is what an e-way bill looks like. Just an example. You can see out here, usually the e-way bill has no printout. It is a QR code and all that I've shown, but actually the e-way bill, the best part about e-way bill is there is no e-way bill printout required. Though in India, people still take a printout and attach to everything as they do. We are still far away from purely, electronic way of working. But it's the inspector who stops you on the way. He simply has a mobile application. He will type your e-way bill number. He gets all the detail of what is inside your truck. And you just have to carry that e-way bill number with you. Don't need to carry any physical document stamped and signed by some babu. Right? A massive innovation. Along with the GST, obviously, which is its own way. And now look at this screen. Taxpayers who are not paying money for more than 2 GST or 3B return, we will not let you make e-way bill. Now, that means if you don't pay your GST, sorry, your goods cannot move, because without e-way bill, if your goods are caught, the penalty is very stiff, right? And so there is a lot of government regulation and danda, let's say, on top of it. You have to accept that India kind of a country, a lot of danda will be required. And without this danda, many of the things may not work. So in summary, what I have covered today, is a lot of innovations which are possible in the country. And the entire idea is to look at some very impact-making innovation. And last point I would like to share before I close, that it need not be that innovation has to be radical in nature, that we must have the next Google invented in India. We must have, a next AI technology invented in India. It will be good if we can do. I'm sure there are smart kids in this country who will do it someday, but that's not the point of worry. Can you apply at scale? Can you really change lives of people? And not few people, of literally tens of millions of people. And I think that's a technology which should count as really, really useful innovation. So I'll stop my session here, and any questions you may have, I'll be very happy to answer at this point of time. Hopefully this was useful, to everybody, and you found it interesting.
Thank you so much, Mr. Apurva. As a matter of fact, it was extremely informative, very impressive, because your colorful slides made this entire field of logistics look very, very glamorous. That's the statement that I would like to make. I think by virtue of insisting on the fact that we need to be power packed with statistics, I think one of the eye openers for all the students who are present amongst the audience, of course, we have corporate friends, we also have people from different other colleges, professors as well. But particularly for the students, I think that is an eye opener. It is really important, extremely important for the students to realize that if you're talking about growth, you're talking about a particular sector, it is the numbers game which counts, and that is what has to be considered as most important. Mr. Apurva Mankat, for all the audience members, is the CEO of Web Express. He is one of the, I would say, partners and pillars of in exciting attention and inspiring students in our institute. He has been associated with us in numerous projects, and we hope that he's going to continue with this association in terms of not just informing the students, also inspiring them and motivating them to do much better. I think he's an authority in the field of logistics, the kind of organization that he's running, and on account of, I can say with great confidence, some of my previous students who have joined this organization, his organization, they have moved to different places. The exposure that he gives to the youngsters is phenomenal because that enables them to try and test the waters in different countries. And I think that is the kind of perspective that he has in terms of giving back to the community. So I think I need to express our gratitude to Mr. Apurva Mankad for sparing his valuable time during the morning to deliver this kind of an insightful session. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you, madam. Thanks for inviting me, and all the best to all the students and everybody.
Yeah.
Okay, bye. Have a good day.